Chapter 26 has a lot of reveals, big reveals in the next two chapters. That's why we're doing them back to back. And there's a lot of changes evident in Luke that show up in this chapter, as well as a lot to discuss to make sure you're really getting those deeper meanings behind the book. So here we go. Finally, a week and a half after the rally, a day dawned that was so clear and dry, Luke knew Dad would be in the fields all day. Without hope, Luke turned on the light by the back door. After 5 minutes without a response, he turned it off and quietly slipped out the door. The cool air was a jolt, and for the briefest time, he paused. This was more dangerous than ever. But I have to know, he muttered fiercely and crept alongside the barn before making his dash for Jen's house. He had to rip the screen and break the pane out of one of the Talbots' windows, which he felt bad about, but it didn't matter. If Jen was there, she could think of an excuse, and if she wasn't, he'd never be back at the Talbots' again. Once inside, he knew he had to do something about the alarm quickly. Jen had explained it to him once, told him the exact sequence of buttons to hit to disable it. He ran to the hall closet, yanked open the door, and punched buttons quickly, afraid he'd forget the sequence if he hesitated even a second. Green, blue, yellow, green, blue, orange, red. The lights blinked out before he hit the last button, and that spooked him. Was that how it worked before? Hurry, hurry, he urged himself. The words kept replaying in his brain. Jen, he called. Jen? He went up and downstairs, looking in every room. Jen, you don't have to hide. It's me, Luke. The house was enormous. 3 floors and a basement. He couldn't search everywhere, but if Jen was there, why would she hide? Against reason, he kept hoping she was. Jen, come on, this isn't funny. He found the bedrooms, huge, elegant rooms with beautifully carved beds and long mirrored closets. He couldn't even tell which one was Jen's. I think that's an important point. It's a callback to something we haven't even talked about since chapter 1, when I asked how long it would take for your family to erase your existence from the house. And besides leaving things around that were obviously yours, there'd be the problem of your, entire bedroom. And they've done it, apparently, because even Luke can't tell which bedroom could be hers, which shows that if someone were going to search the house, they wouldn't even be able to notice right away that there were 3 different kids who lived here. Maybe just a guest room, just random bedrooms. Also, some things that Luke is doing now that he has never done before. He's punched out a screen before, but not glass. And this time he had to punch out the glass. He's running all over the house, yelling. Not something he usually does. So, different things about Luke. Finally, he admitted defeat and rushed down to the computer room. He hurried over to the keyboard and typed in the same sequence of letters he'd watched Jen type so many times. His fingers were clumsy and he kept messing up. Finally, he got to the chat room password. F-E-R-E. No, erase. F-E-E-R. No, at last he got it. F-R-E-E. The screen went blank with none of the friendly banter that had magically appeared every time he'd watched Jen. Had he done something wrong? Frantically, he exited and entered the chat room again, his hands shaking. Still nothing. Timidly, using only his right index finger, he typed, "Where's Jen?" He had to hold one hand with the other to steady his finger enough to hit the enter button. Almost instantaneously, his words vanished and reappeared at the top of the screen. He waited. Nothing. The screen stayed blank below his question. Because nothing was worse than doing nothing, he typed again. "Hello? Is anybody there?" Still nothing. He slammed his fist down on the computer desk so hard it hurt. "I have to know. Tell me. I can't go home until I know." He heard the door, too late to react, and suddenly a voice boomed behind him. "Turn around slowly. I have a gun. Who are you, and why are you here?" Chapter 27. Luke stifled his instinct to run. He turned around as slowly as he could. Guns had been outlawed for everyone but government officials long before he was born, but he recognized the object pointed at him from books and Dad's descriptions. Dad had always talked about hunting rifles and shotguns, big guns, to bring down deer or wolves. This gun was smaller, meant to kill humans. All that flashed through Luke's mind before he looked beyond the gun to the man holding it. He was tall and fleshy, his expensive clothes only partially hiding his bulk. Luke had seen him only from a distance before. "You're Jen's dad," he said. I know it's tough to stop when it's getting exciting, but this is one of those deeper moments that I want you to catch, that the author very rarely describes a character's appearance. Other classes have predicted that maybe this is part of her attempt to make this book really vague so that it could seem like it could happen anywhere. They haven't mentioned specific cities or specific countries, so maybe they're not getting too specific with characters either, trying to keep it vague so that you feel like this could happen to you. It could happen where you live. That's a really good inference. I think also the author wants him to appear intimidating, of course. We don't want you to assume Luke could just slap the gun away and run. This is a big, large man. But also, it specifically mentions that he is fleshy and bulky. It doesn't mention his hair color. It doesn't mention what he's wearing, his skin color. Does he have a mustache? It's fleshy and bulky. Why mention just those specific traits? No, it's not fat shaming. It's not random either. It's because remember what the government has been trying to avoid. They've been trying to avoid starvation. All the things they're controlling is aimed at preventing starvation. So if there's such little food going around that people are starving, the fact that he would have not only enough food to live, but more than enough food, like enough extra food that he can even gain some extra pounds, that's like the biggest flex. Look how rich I am. Look how powerful I am. I get enough food plus some. So, money is freedom, wealth, size is power, and this is something that apparently rich people can kind of flaunt. "You're Jen's dad," he said. "I didn't ask who I was. Who are you?" Luke exhaled slowly. "A friend of Jen's," he said cautiously. Only because he was watching very, very closely did he see the man lower the gun by a fraction of an inch. "Please, I just want to know where she is." This time the man clearly relaxed his gun. He circled around behind Luke and snapped off the computer. "Jen says you have to park the hard drive before you do that," Luke said. I love that. That's where his brain goes for a second. "How do you know about Jen?" the man asked. He narrowed his eyes. Luke blinked. The man was bargaining, he realized, offering to negotiate. He wanted something from Luke before he would tell Luke anything about Jen. But what? "I'm a third child too," Luke said finally. The man's expression didn't change, but Luke thought he saw a flicker of interest in his eyes. "I'm a neighbor. I found out about her, and I started coming over when I could." "How did you know she was here?" the man said. "I saw..." Luke didn't want to get her in trouble. "I saw lights when I knew everyone was gone. I guessed. I really wanted there to be another third child for me to meet." "So Jen was careless," the man said, with an edge to his voice that Luke didn't understand. "No, I was observant." The man nodded, only to accept Luke's answer. Then he sat down in the chair by the computer desk and rested the gun on his leg. Luke took that as a sign that the conversation might last long enough for him to find out something. "Did Jen teach you how to disable our alarm system?" the man asked. Luke saw no point in lying. "Yes, but I must have screwed up since you came." "No, if you'd screwed up, the security guards would have come. But I have it set so I'm automatically notified if the system's shut down while I'm away. Given the circumstances, I decided to investigate myself. Luke longed to ask what circumstances he meant, but the man was already asking another question. So what else did you and Jen do together? The man said. Luke couldn't understand why he sounded so accusatory. Nothing. I mean, we talked a lot. She showed me the computer. She wanted me to go to the rally, but I was too scared. Too late, Luke thought, to wonder if the man knew about the rally. Was Luke betraying Jen's confidence? But the man didn't seem surprised. He was studying Luke as intently as Luke had been studying him. Why didn't you stop her? The man asked. Stop Jen? That's like trying to stop the sun, Luke said. That is a gorgeous simile, comparing the sun to Jen, specifically comparing how stoppable the sun is to how stoppable Jen is. In other words, not easy to stop, like the sun. The man gave Luke the faintest of smiles, one that contained no happiness. Just remember that, he said. So where is she? Luke asked. The man looked away. His voice broke. Jen is no longer with us. She's dead, the man said harshly. Somehow, Luke had known, without wanting to know. He still stumbled backwards in shock. He bumped into the couch and sagged into it. No, not Jen, no, you're lying. His ears roared. He thought crazy things. This is a dream, a nightmare. I will make myself wake up. He remembered Jen talking a mile a minute, gesturing wildly. How could she be dead? He tried to picture her lying still, not moving. Dead. It was impossible. The man was shaking his head helplessly. I'd give anything to have her back, he whispered. But it's true. I saw. They gave us the body. Special privilege for a government official. His voice was so bitter, Luke could barely listen. And we couldn't even bury her in the family plot. Couldn't take a bereavement day off work. Couldn't tell anyone why we're going around with red eyes and aching hearts. No, we just had to pretend to be the same old family of 4 we'd always been. How did she die? Luke was thinking, if the car had wrecked, it wouldn't be so bad. Or maybe if it had nothing to do with the rally, maybe she just got really sick. They shot her, Jen's father said. They shot all of them, all 40 kids at the rally, gunned down right in front of the president's house. The blood flowed into his rose bushes. But they had the sidewalks scrubbed before the tourists came, so nobody would know. So, Jen's father, being a government official, got a special privilege. He got the body back of his daughter, whereas the other families, if they weren't part of the government, I guess just had to wonder forever whatever happened to their kids. He got her body back, but he didn't get to bury her with the family plot. Nowhere where anybody would, it could be marked. Because she is still a secret, so they had to continue on like nothing had happened. And remember, Luke was watching them, trying to read any sign, any signal from their body language, from their faces about what had happened to her. And they had to mask the whole thing. Now, obviously, one murdered kid in cold blood is too many. 10 kids, way too many. 20 kids, an absolutely horrible number of kids to be killed. 40 is obviously a horrible number. However, way, way less than what Jen thought would be. Remember, she said there'd be 1,000 kids. And again, no number of kids is okay, but 40, that is so much less than 1,000, which breaks my heart for Jen after all this planning to be killed for something that was only a fraction of the change she had hoped to make. Now, 3 reasons why the government would be so quick to scrub all evidence of this happening. Obviously, they killed kids. I think there would be some people that would have a problem with that. They didn't even stop and ask questions. They didn't take anybody in for questioning. They didn't arrest anybody. They didn't even say, hey, just to be sure, you're not the president's kids, are you? Because we'd probably get in trouble for that. None of that happened. They just killed him in cold blood. So, of course, they'd have to cover that up. But also, you don't want any copycats. You don't want any third children to catch wind of this and, think, oh, that's possible? Okay, well, we can maybe we should all stand up together. But also, especially this government, how embarrassing is that? That they have all this propaganda out there, these news spots saying, we see you, we'll catch you, we know everything you do, we're watching. But somehow this secret third child that wasn't supposed to exist got all these other third children together and planned a rally on a chat room that the government had no idea about. That's embarrassing to them that it was able to get that far and they had no clue. So, for multiple reasons, they had to shut down all evidence of this, which was why no one knew anything. There was nothing on the news, nothing on the radio, nothing. Luke started shaking his head no and couldn't stop. But Jen said there'd be too many people to shoot. She said there'd be 1,000, Luke protested, as if Jen's words could change what he was hearing. Our Jen had too much faith in the bravery of her fellow hidden, Jen's father said. Luke flinched. I told her I couldn't go. I told her it's not my fault. No, Jen's dad said quietly, and you couldn't have stopped her. It's not your fault. There are plenty of other people who deserve the blame. They probably would have shot 1,000 or 15,000. They don't care. His face twisted. Luke thought he had never seen such pain, not even the time Matthew dropped a sledgehammer on his foot. Tears began to spill down Jen's father's face. What I don't understand is, why did she do this? This children's crusade. She wasn't stupid. We'd been warning her about the population police all her life. Did she really think the rally would work? Yes, Luke assured him. Then, unbidden, the last words she'd spoken to him came back to him. We can hope. After she'd told him hope was worthless. Maybe she knew the rally would fail. Maybe she even knew she'd probably die. He remembered the first day he had met her, when she'd cut her hand to cover the drops of his blood on the carpet. There was something strange in Jen he couldn't quite understand that made her willing to sacrifice herself to save others, or try to. I think at first she thought the rally would work, Luke told Jen's dad. And then, even when she wasn't sure, she still had to go. She couldn't call it off. Why? Jen's dad asked. He was sobbing. Did she want to die? No, Luke said. She wanted to live. Not die, not hide. Live. That goes back to one of the main overall questions in our book. Is being alive a life? And Jen's answer is clearly no. The words played over and over in his brain. Not hide, live. Not hide, live. As long as he held on to them, he felt like Jen was there. She'd just left the room for a minute to get more potato chips maybe, and soon she'd be back to lecture him again about how they both deserved a better life than hiding. He could believe it was her voice echoing in his ears. But if he let go, let the words stop for a minute, he was lost. He felt like the whole world was spinning away from him, and he was all alone. He wanted to cry out, Jen, come back, as if she could hear him and stop the spinning and come to him. As if from a great distance, Luke heard Jen's father heave a sigh and blow his nose in a businesslike way. You may not be ready to hear this, he said, but... Dizzily, Luke raised his head and listened half-heartedly. When you logged into that chat room, a buzzer went off in a room in Population Police headquarters. They're monitoring that chat room very closely. They found it after the rally. I've managed to cover up things about Jen, but they'll trace your message back to our computer. The Population Police are backlogged right now, following leads from the rally. So I should have a day or two to come up with a plausible-sounding explanation. But if they investigate too carefully, you may be in danger. So just to make sure you understand that part, obviously they're looking for anything they can to find who was in charge of this rally, where did it come from. And they figured out about the chat room, and they hacked their way in, and they've been watching it. So as soon as Luke typed into it and it became live, they're all over it. They'll trace the IP address. They'll find out where that came from. The dad thinks it might take them a day or two since they're so busy hunting down people from the rally and their families and tracing, names back to following each of those leads. But he thinks in that time he'll be able to come up with a reason that they'll buy, a reason why that chat room would possibly be open in his house, besides the fact that it, originated there. But that if they do come back, he can't necessarily protect Luke. They'll find him. More than usual, Luke said sarcastically. Jen's dad took the question seriously. Yes, they'll begin actively looking for you. They'll search every house around this one. It wouldn't take them long to find you. A chill ran down Luke's spine. So he would die, just like Jen. Or not like her. She'd gone bravely. He would be caught like a mouse in its hole. But if you let me, Jen's dad continued, I can get you a fake ID. You can be miles away before they come looking. You would do that for me? Why? Because of Jen. But how? I have connections. You see, I work for the population police.